done out in the community. We're out in senior centers and health centers providing these presentations in person to the community. So, we've been doing our best to try and figure out a way that we can still provide this to the community by doing it virtually. So, we are still open, even if we're working from home remotely. And the best way to really get in contact with us is by calling our helpline. It is available Monday through Friday from 9 to. You can also email the helpline, or you can always stay connected to us on our website as well. And in fact, if you go to our website, you can subscribe to our newsletters. We email newsletters, I think about once a week or so. I know that our CEO, Heather, sends email updates every now and then as well. And you can also contact us for care counseling. And the best way to speak to a care counselor, again, is through our helpline. And you can speak to our care counselor of the day. And we do have virtual support groups going on right now that you can also find out that schedule on our helpline as well. And educational talks like this. So we are going to keep doing this on an ongoing basis. And we will release a schedule for May as well that will include more classes, more opportunities. All right. So for today, we're going to talk about what is normal forgetting, what is dementia, and what's Alzheimer's disease. So what are the differences? Because I know many people get confused about the difference between the two. Then we'll talk about how you can lower your risk for memory problems. And we'll talk about what does it look like to go and see a doctor, and when should I go to the doctor, and how can I get help for this? So true or false? And if you want to type your answer into the chat box, that will be fine. So true or false? Forgetting things once in a while is a normal part of aging. Do you think it's true or false? True. I'm seeing true. And yes. Good job. It's true. Because it is normal to forget things a little bit as we age. And let's talk about what that normal aging versus more serious aging. So we'll take a look at that. So yes, normal aging, our thinking slows down. It may be harder to pay attention. We may need more reminders. Maybe we're not as sharp as we were when we were younger. But all of these are normal changes in the memory. But then when we look at more serious problems, we look at things like having trouble following a conversation. So, you're talking with someone and all of a sudden the person just maybe stops in the middle of their conversation because they forgot what they were talking about, or they just lost track of their words. Or trouble with reading or writing, maybe not understanding, reading a news article and not being able to understand what they're reading, or writing, having trouble, maybe writing their own name or signing their own name. Trouble with paying bills. That's one of the first signs, early warning signs, as well as we see people having trouble with their bills, maybe not paying bills on time or not paying the right amount, or getting confused and maybe paying more than they needed to. Confused with time of day. So, especially with sundowning, we know people get more agitated when the sun goes down. That shift in the time of day, thinking that it's morning time when really it's in the middle of the night. New problems with daily tasks. So daily tasks. So let's think of a daily task that we do every day, getting up, like brushing our teeth, taking a shower, getting dressed, making food. If all of a sudden someone has starting to have problems with these tasks, having a hard time remembering how to brush their teeth, or having trouble maybe with hygiene, or forgetting how to properly make a sandwich, these are all normal daily tasks that we do. So those will be more serious problems when people start having trouble with those. Forgetting about recent events. So really about the short-term memory loss. So that short-term memory loss is really the key hallmark sign of Alzheimer's. Forgetting what they just saw or what they did that same day. Um, Repeating themselves a lot because they have forgotten about what they just said. And then we see losing more stuff than usual. So not to say that, oh, I always can't find my phone or where are my car keys, because, we all do that from time to time. I mean, I certainly do. I was like, where's my phone? And sometimes, that happens because maybe in that moment we were in a hurry or distracted and we didn't really pay attention to where we set down our phone or where we placed our keys. But if you find that you are really losing a lot more things, and maybe because you're hiding them in unusual places or putting them in places where they don't belong, then that causes for more alarm. What's going on there? Or then even more serious too is we see that individuals with memory loss sometimes even begin to accuse other people of stealing their items because they can't find where they put them. So besides Alzheimer's, what else can cause memory problems? So, and many of these things can actually be treated or reversed. So that's why we really advocate for early detection or just going to the doctor if you don't feel right. So we see side effects from medications or medications interact with each other. I always tell everyone, if you're taking a lot of medication, especially if you're on a new one and you're feeling like you're becoming much more forgetful or feeling not quite like yourself, definitely consult with your doctor, because it could be that medicine. Then we got in isolation. All can problems, can cause people stress, not even remember to eat. Maybe you're hungry, maybe you forget about appointments that you had. These are all kind of similar to Alzheimer's, but these, with anxiety, stress, and depression, you usually can be treated. Not getting enough vitamins, so just making sure that you're having a well-balanced meal, and eating, all your good fruits and vegetables. Too much smoking, alcohol, or drug abuse can affect your memory. So the best thing to do is reduce or eliminate, because long-term alcohol, smoking, and drug abuse can actually cause your brain to shrink and cause damage to the neurons. Blood clots or tumors in the brain, or head injuries, these things could potentially be treated, or maybe through surgery, or just being more cautious, more careful, especially older adults who live at home, trying to make sure that there's no clutter or lots of cords to trip on to hit their head. Kidney, liver, or thyroid problems. So this could affect memory, especially, if there are infections linked to this. But again, these are things that by visiting a doctor, you could potentially treat and manage these. Dehydration. So especially now that we're starting to see some more weather, definitely stay hydrated and not getting enough sleep as well. So we do see that long-term sleep deprivation can do damage to the brain. So Linda's story. So Linda's daughter noticed that she wasn't eating well and was just kind of seeming really down and was being much more forgetful as well. So her daughter thought that maybe she had Alzheimer's, so she wanted to take her to the doctor. And it turned out that she just had depression and not Alzheimer's. So after seeking a counselor, taking medicine, and eating better, she seemed less confused and more like herself. So this is a good example because depression really can sometimes mimic Alzheimer's, or it can enhance that confusion or memory loss. Granted, this is just an anecdotal example, but my grandmother, she is suffering from dementia, but also severe depression. And my mom did take her to the doctor, and they did find that, yes, she has dementia, but also she's severely depressed. So they actually decided to treat the depression and give her antidepressants. And she's been on it for 2 or 3 months now. And I have seen a big difference in her mood. She just seems much happier. She seems much less confused as well. So again, I know it's just anecdotal, but I think there's something to be said how treating depression can improve memory. True or false? So another thing to answer into the chat box. Do you think that dementia and Alzheimer's disease are the same thing? True or false? They are the same thing. Saying false, not sure. Okay. Good, honest answer. So false. They're not the same thing. So let's talk about, well then, what are they? So let's talk about first dementia. So dementia is really a term to describe problems caused by diseases and conditions affecting the brain. So we talk about it as it's just a very general term when there are severe symptoms that disrupt your everyday life, severe symptoms of memory loss disrupting your everyday life. So dementia is really the symptom. It's not exactly the disease. So you have dementia or this memory loss. So you say, okay, well, what is causing this dementia? Because if you go back to that previous slide, maybe this dementia is being caused by medicine, or maybe this dementia is being caused by an infection. Or, like we see on this slide, maybe the dementia is caused by a neurological disease, like Alzheimer's disease, which is the most common form of dementia. And vascular dementia really is the second one, and getting close to having the same rates as Alzheimer's. We're seeing much more cases of vascular dementia. But yeah, so dementia is really just that general term. And when someone is said to have dementia, you really want to ask the question, well, what's causing this dementia? Can this be treated? Because sometimes it can. However, sometimes it can't. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Sometimes it can be treated and be reversed. Sometimes it can be treated, but not necessarily reversed, if that makes sense, which segues into the next slide that with Alzheimer's disease, there is no cure right now. And there's no cure for really any of the dementias listed in the previous slide. So in this image that you see here, a healthy brain versus a brain with severe Alzheimer's disease, you can see how with Alzheimer's disease, it really causes the brain to shrink, just kind of shrivel up and decay. So the cause of this is because the plaques and tangles, like those beta amyloid and tau proteins that you may often hear about, are basically attacking the brain cells, the neurons of the brain, and it's disrupting their ability to create connections and send signals to each other, signals that tell us to speak, to walk, to remember how to brush our teeth. So this is why we see that deterioration in the brain, of course, over a long period of time. And that's why we see so many of our abilities are impaired with this disease. All right, so I want to show this short video that kind of gives a good summary of what's happening in the brain when someone has Alzheimer's disease. So let's take a look.
What is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's is a slow, fatal disease of the brain affecting 1 in 10 people over the age of 65. No one is immune. The disease comes on gradually as 2 abnormal protein fragments called plaques and tangles accumulate in the brain and kill brain cells. They start here in the hippocampus, the part of the brain where memories are first formed. Over many years' time, the plaques and tangles slowly destroy the hippocampus, and it becomes harder and harder to form new memories. Simple recollections from a few hours or days ago that the rest of us might take for granted are just not there. After that, more plaques and tangles spread into different regions of the brain, killing cells and compromising function wherever they go. This spreading around is what causes the different stages of Alzheimer's. From the hippocampus, the disease spreads here to the region of the brain where language is processed. When that happens, it gets tougher and tougher to find the right word. Next, the disease creeps toward the front of the brain, where logical thought takes place. Very gradually, a person begins to lose the ability to solve problems, grasp concepts, and make plans. Next, the plaques and tangles invade the part of the brain where emotions are regulated. When this happens, the patient gradually loses control over moods and feelings. After that, the disease moves to where the brain makes sense of things it sees, hears, and smells. In this stage, Alzheimer's wreaks havoc on a person's senses and can spark hallucinations. Eventually, the plaques and tangles erase a person's oldest and most precious memories, which are stored here in the back of the brain. Near the end, the disease compromises a person's balance and coordination. And in the very last stage, it destroys the part of the brain that regulates breathing and the heart. The progression from mild forgetting to death is slow and steady and takes place over an average of 8 to 10 years. It is relentless and, for now, incurable. Helping your family, friends, and neighbors to better understand Alzheimer's will reduce stigma, improve care, and even help the fight for a cure. Thanks for helping to do your part. Learn more at www.aboutalz.org.
Okay. So any comments or reactions about the video we just watched? If you want to type or any comment or if you wanted to unmute. Do these stages all happen in that order? So there is early and middle and late stage. Thank you, Dennis, for your question. But you know, every all the different symptoms that occur in each stage, it's different for everyone. So not everyone's going to have the same journey. You know, some may have, you know, some people may not, for example, recognize themselves in the mirror, and whereas someone else who's in that same, you know, same stage, maybe they still can. They have good perception. So just kind of an example, but everyone's going to go through it differently. So, you know, it may not necessarily be the same. Did that kind of answer your question? I know it's kind of... But I will talk more. Oh, sorry. Was someone trying to say something? Actually, I think that was my echo. Okay, I will talk more about the 3 stages. I think it might be in the slide after this. So let's talk about warning signs. So these are the top 10 warning signs when someone should go and see a doctor. So a lot of these signs are overlooked. People may not even realize that they're having an early warning sign. So let's just go over these top 10. So the first one is feeling less able to do day-to-day activities. So again, it's that trouble of maybe, you know, you're having a hard time getting ready in the morning. You seem much more disoriented. You're losing that sense of routine. 2, managing finances and paying bills. So, you know, I touched on that in the beginning, having trouble with money. Number 3, misplacing or losing things more often. Number 4, increasing anger, anxiety, or sadness. So maybe we see a lot of changes in mood, maybe changes in personality. Number 5, trouble with reading, writing, and conversations. 6, repeating questions or stories. So again, that just goes back to that short-term memory loss because they may have forgotten what they just told you, or asking the same thing over again. 7, withdrawing from family, friends, or social activities. So that's why we sometimes can see that person start to really isolate themselves as well, because maybe they know something's not quite right. And so they don't want to go out to a social event with friends or family, and maybe they don't want to be exposed, or they don't want to feel embarrassed if they can't keep up with a conversation. Number 8, getting lost on familiar roads or paths. So, let's say you always went to the same doctor for many, many years, and suddenly you forget how to get there. You always take the same route every time for your appointment, and then one day you forget. Or forgetting how to get back to your own home, a home that maybe that you've lived there for 10, 20 years, and you can't remember how to get back home. So these are those more serious memory losses, um, memory issues. Number 9, needing more reminders to stay organized. And 10, hearing that others have concerns about changes in memory or your behavior. So many times, the person that is starting to have these warning signs or having memory issues, that person may not even realize that anything is wrong with them. They may not notice anything. But sometimes it's people like friends or family that have that outside perspective, that they see what's going on. They see the behavior of that person, and they see, something's not quite right, something's off. So, for families, especially if they have that gut feeling like something's off, don't keep it to yourself. Definitely speak up and say something, of course, in a manner that is respectful and doesn't make them feel embarrassed about it or anything. But definitely, it's not something to keep to yourself. It's definitely something that you want to speak up about. So the stages of Alzheimer's disease. Oh, I'm sorry, I just saw a question. So Dennis says, do surroundings or being alone make symptoms worse or come on quicker? So with being alone, so I'll start with surroundings. So your environment. So sometimes certain environments can trigger more confusion, especially if it's an environment that person is not, it's a new environment, they're not familiar with it. It could maybe cause them to become agitated or feel uncomfortable. So that could potentially cause some symptoms, but that's usually if they're already have the existing disease. Um, does being alone make symptoms worse or come on quicker? So that would be what we call like social isolation. So people who live alone. So while there's not enough evidence looking at social isolation in dementia right now, but there is definitely a lot of talk that when people live alone or are socially isolated, that they're not having that social interaction. So not only the social part, but they're not engaging, they're not stimulating their brain or challenging their brain because they don't have other people to interact with. So that alone may not necessarily, the social isolation may not be the only factor in dementia, because again, there's so many other factors that attribute to someone developing this. But I think I'll talk briefly in the coming slides about some risk factors. Okay. Oh yes, but let me get on this slide. I haven't covered this yet. So the stages of Alzheimer's disease. So we know that Alzheimer's progresses in about 3 stages: early, middle, and late. So in the early stage, we see that they often have difficulty with multi-step tasks, trouble recalling current or historical events and maybe more withdrawn. And sometimes people in early stages are still very independent. They may still be, living alone, and they may not even, if you're with that person, you may not even know that they have Alzheimer's because they are still very independent and can still do a lot for themselves. But in those specific individuals, it's not until you spend some amount of some time with them that you start kind of picking up on some a little bit of those signs that, oh yes, they're repeating the same thing a lot, which is often the big thing that people notice. Then we go into the middle stage. So the middle stage typically is the bulk of the disease. So more people are in the middle stage for a longer period of time. And people in this stage, they may need more assisted care. Maybe they have a caregiver, or a loved one takes care of them at home, with reminders, or maybe they live in an assisted living because they need those daily reminders to help them get through their day. Even reminders such as, we're gonna go eat breakfast, or it's time to go to your doctor's appointment. Things like that they may not think of or remember on their own. And then we go into the late stage. So the late stage, they're definitely going to need 24/7 care, maybe at home or maybe in a memory care unit. They'll need help with, bathing and dressing and eating in the later stage. But the main goal in the late stage really is to make the person feel comfortable, right? We want them to feel comfortable. We don't want them to be in pain or feel any sort of suffering in the late stage. So maybe hospice would be something that families want to consider just for that type of, or even some sort of palliative care. So next, true or false question. Everyone is at risk of getting Alzheimer's. True or false? What do you all think? Are we all at risk of getting Alzheimer's? Sure, true, yes. Yes, thank you, Dennis and Lori. Oh wait. True, it's true. So yes, everyone is at risk. So, but I don't want you to have that scare you. The reason why we say that true is everyone is at risk because Alzheimer's doesn't discriminate. We see that anybody can get this disease. It doesn't matter your ethnicity or your gender. And here we'll see some risk factors. So what can increase my risk? So some factors that we cannot control. So of course our age. So at around age 65 or older is when people could potentially start seeing some memory loss. Genetics, so there is a gene associated with Alzheimer's disease called the APOE4 gene, and while this gene does not guarantee that you're going to get Alzheimer's, it does increase your risk of developing it. But, I always tell people, just because if you have it, don't think it's automatically like, oh, it's a death sentence. No, because you can do a lot for yourself to potentially reduce your risk for developing Alzheimer's. Then biological sex. So being a man or a woman, we see that more women are getting diagnosed with Alzheimer's. There's still not a lot of research studying this as to why. But, a lot of people can have their own ideas of why that is. Some factors we have some control over. So head injury, especially, for older adults, just being more conscious of surroundings and not falling, having good balance, and actually, maintaining good exercise throughout your entire life helps with balance, helps reduce falls. So reducing falls helps to reduce head injury. Then cardiovascular diseases. So high blood pressure, like high blood pressure and diabetes, and of course obesity as well. So actually, a recent study showed that high blood pressure is really a big factor into someone's risk for developing dementia. So, if there's one thing we should try to control is our blood pressure. Then depression and stress. These are things that we can control. We can find ways to cope with it, find ways to relieve stress, find ways to get connected socially to reduce our depression, seeking support or resources. And lifestyle choices, exercise and diet, the foods we eat, making sure that we are nurturing our body with the right foods. All right, another true or false. Get ready. So, doing crossword puzzles will prevent Alzheimer's. True or false? What do y'all think? Doing crossword puzzles will prevent Alzheimer's. True or false? So, someone says not sure. So, it is false. So, before any gasps, I can't do my crossword puzzles. What about my Sudoku? Well, what we're trying to say here is that we don't need to go out and buy, a whole year's worth of crossword puzzles or Sudoku, because although it does help with keeping your brain active and stimulating your brain and keeping and challenging your brain, it does help. But doing crossword puzzles 365 days of the year, it's not going to prevent you from getting Alzheimer's. Because again, there's so many other factors that play a role in why someone gets dementia or Alzheimer's. So, but it can help. So don't go throwing away your crossword puzzles just yet, because they are good, good for your brain. But again, it's not going to prevent it all on its own. So what can I do to reduce my risk? So the first one, physical activity. So make sure that you're constantly, moving, especially, I know that gyms are closed now, and I know that's really tough, but, and we can't really go out too much, but, you still can go out, take a walk around your block, get some fresh air, get some beautiful sun. The weather has been so great. It was so cold the last, several weeks. But really, all you need is 150 minutes a week. That's about 30 minutes, 5 days a week of physical activity. Is all you need. And then we see keeping your brain active. So now that we're all at home, this is a great time to learn something new. I can tell you that I actually just this week decided to start. It's called Duolingo. It's where you can learn a different language. And I already know Spanish, so I decided to learn French. So, je suis Adriana. I am Adriana. It's a little bit I've learned. But yes, that was a great time to challenge your brain and take up a new hobby. Maybe you want to learn how to crochet or knit. Now's a great time to do that. Then we see that blood pressure cuff. So really, that is about managing your numbers, like making sure that you're going to the doctor regularly, checking up your blood pressure, checking, making sure your blood sugar is good, making sure you're not pre-diabetic, and your cholesterol as well. And I always recommend, it's good to have a blood pressure cuff at home, maybe one of those that go around your wrist. Especially if you know that maybe you're at risk for high blood pressure, or if you have it, it's good to have one so you are monitoring it. Same with the blood sugar, the thing that pricks your finger, that monitor, it's the glucose reader. It's good to have one as well if you know that you may be pre-diabetic or diabetic. Next, we see eating well. So we do recommend the Mediterranean diet, which basically just really emphasizes eating lots of fruits and vegetables. They say to eat the rainbow, and that is so true. And so, obviously try to stay away from a lot of processed foods or empty carbs like instead of white rice, why don't you try maybe brown rice, because it has much better fiber, better nutrients for you. 'Cause anything that's just plain white, like plain white, plain flour, or excuse me, plain pasta, it's lacking in the nutrients that our body needs. So try to go for more whole grains. And then that sweet baby, sleep well. It is recommended to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep, to get full restful sleep, because we really want to enter that deep sleep every night. All right, another true or false question. True or false? There is no point in going through all the trouble of getting a diagnosis because there is no cure. There's no point in going through all the trouble of getting a diagnosis because there is no cure. Is that true or false? False. Yes, I see Connie here. Yes. K2. That is false, correct. Because although, yes, there is no cure at this time, and some people might say that. They're like, oh, well, there's no point. There's nothing that they can do about it. But that's not the right attitude to have. It's really valuable to get that early diagnosis, that early detection, because the earlier you can get that diagnosis, if it is Alzheimer's, the earlier you can plan for the future and start to plan with your family. And, especially with legal matters or finances, the person who has the Alzheimer's diagnosis, they want to be able to get all of their matters in place while they still can make decisions for themselves. So that's why it's so important, the earlier the better to detect it, especially because there are medications that people can take that help to reduce the symptoms of Alzheimer's, and it can help to slow down the progression. So if someone maybe is someone who is not on this medication, maybe their disease might progress much more rapidly and much more aggressively, whereas someone who gets on medication early enough may not see such an aggressive decline. Rita's story. The doctor said it was good that she came in now instead of waiting so we could start figuring out what the problem might be. Because again, remember, the problem maybe isn't Alzheimer's. Maybe it is something else. Maybe there's a lack of vitamins. Maybe they need to start taking supplements. Maybe it is the medication. Maybe there's something wrong with their, thyroid. Well, there's thyroid medication to treat that. So there's a lot of things that people could do if it's not Alzheimer's. Maybe it's something else that they can treat. So how to prepare for a doctor's visit? So first and foremost, of course, be honest to with your doctor about what's going on and how you're feeling. You list all of the medications, including the prescribed, over-the-counter vitamins and supplements, because again, the doctor wants to rule out any side effects or any potential bad interactions between medicines. Then list all the symptoms. So it's important to list, what's going on, when, how long, and how often. So whether it's you or maybe whether it's the person that has this memory loss, or maybe it's a loved one that lives with them, whoever it may be, it's important to write down what they notice, what symptoms occur, when it happened, and how often. So keeping a journal could be helpful to note what's going on. And of course, ask until you understand. It's important to advocate for yourself as the patient for your own health, and make sure that you understand what the doctor is telling you. Hello. And that you get the answer you're looking for.
Hello, good morning. Yes.
So when we look at getting a
he's not been. I don't know.
So when we look at getting a diagnosis, here's kind of what it looks like. So first, a medical checkup, maybe kind of looks like a normal physical exam. Maybe they'll do blood analysis, making sure to check your vitamins, make sure your organs are working properly, checking your cholesterol and sugar levels, all of that. Family health history. So, they'll ask about if anyone else in the family has Alzheimer's, or and then they'll ask about how you're doing everyday tasks, if you're still driving, shopping for food, paying bills, or, or someone helping you. Maybe they'll talk to family members, because again, what I mentioned in the beginning, that sometimes family members are the first to notice that something's not quite right, with my husband, with my wife, with my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, whoever it may be. They may have a better perspective of what's going on. And then a memory assessment. So, I know that there's different types of memory assessments that people have gone through. I know many families have told me about very lengthy tests that last several hours, and others that, just, maybe 20 minutes. So I know that, for my grandma, they did have her fill out some questionnaire, and they did even ask her to draw a clock. As we know, that's a very common thing, draw a clock and set the time. And my grandma actually could not. She did know the date. She knew what day it was. She knew her birthday and all that, but she couldn't draw the clock. So then we look at laboratory exams. So again, that's like blood work and all that. And then brain scans, maybe they'll be able to see, something in the brain that detects that, yes, it is Alzheimer's. Maybe we can see that there's plaques and tangles over some time. Okay. So how do we manage Alzheimer's disease? So we know that, unfortunately, we don't have a cure yet. But as I mentioned, there's medications that people can get on that can help with the symptoms. Help significantly, and we do see that they have medicines for different stages, so they offer them, for an earlier stage or for middle and late. So they'll be able to personalize the medication to what stage that they're at. People could also get involved with clinical trials, testing out new drugs. And then, of course, there's caregiver classes that we offer at Alzheimer's LA, like Savvy Caregiver class, that is helpful for the caregivers, because we know that caregiver stress and the caregiver burden is a very real thing, and we want to be able to empower caregivers and give them the knowledge they need to take care of their loved one. So, we don't want to forget about the caregiver. So what to do after a diagnosis? You've been diagnosed, and now what? Explore your options for treatment or clinical trials. Talk about it too. It's especially important to talk about it, talk about your feelings and how you feel you're going to cope with this. It really helps to, talk with it with your family and your close friends. It's especially helpful when other people know what's going on, and that way they can know how to better support you. Take care of yourself first and foremost, of course. Plan for the future, but focus on today, because yes, living with Alzheimer's, each day will be different, especially as the disease progresses. And of course, you can always contact Alzheimer's Los Angeles. We have services to help you all and support, like our helpline that I mentioned in the beginning that you can call. You can call us to get connected to a care counselor. You can call our helpline to ask about our virtual support group schedule. We have Annie is leading this virtual support scheduling the support group, and she is your point of contact. And she's been great to have every day, Monday through Friday. There's one support group every day. So any day, Monday through Friday, whatever time works for you, you're welcome to join the virtual support group. education and training, as you see, we're all doing this virtually online, and we are looking to add more classes for May. So that's pretty exciting that we can do this and still give these resources to you all. And volunteering and fundraising also to help us continue to provide these services for free to the community and to caregivers. And we do have wonderful volunteers. Many of you are on this webinar, and we can't wait for you. And on social media, we have many different platforms, as you can see. And so really, we're here for you, and, we're here to help you and serve you in any way we can. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So we'll take questions and comments. Oh, goodness. Stop sharing, I think.
Yes, thank you, Adriana.
And may I ask, I just saw, was I cutting out at all? I just saw on the bottom corner it said something about bad quality.
Yeah, just on the second to the last slide, there was a delay in cutting out just a little.
Okay, sorry about that. I just saw the little note on the bottom. Like, oh no.
Yeah, but it cleared up pretty quickly, so.
Okay.
So yes, I think it went well. I think we can open it up. Even I will unmute everybody if people want to ask a question. Why don't we can take a few. If you want to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and ask a question if you like, or any comments. Was everybody able to see the presentation fine and hear Adriana okay, or were there any problems? Maybe it's in the chat.
If anyone is trying to
I
talk,
have a question.
Oh, we hear you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, how is this delivery system being received by the organizations that have in the past asked you to provide the service?
Which service are you talking about?
The actual presentation.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we've just begun. You mean this kind of remote presentations, I'm assuming? That's what you're asking about?
Yeah, so we really haven't used this delivery system to date.
Right. So this is actually April was when we just began doing this kind of distance learning option, obviously, because we can no longer go to the public in person. So it is something that I think we are starting out slowly. There's two things. One is letting people know we have these presentations available virtually. And two, once people would like to participate, it's figuring out whether they can do it by webinar or we always have the option people can call in by telephone, which is pretty easy with a passcode just to listen to the presentation. So, so yeah, it's something that's a learning curve for both us and the community to work out all the kinks. And eventually this will always be offered as an alternate option. Did that answer your question?
Kind of, sort of, because this is something that, in my professional life, it's a hurdle that most of us are dealing with and trying to understand how to cross that hurdle because of the digital divide. Not everyone have access to the technology to do this or the familiarity with even using a conference call capability.
Right. So we do offer technical support. I think we try to contact people ahead of time. If they want to test out the system the day before the presentation, we're very happy to do that. We can help them either by the telephone call, or if they want to try to get the webinar working on their smartphone, it's available on their smartphone as well, or on their computer. So I think it will be a process for us to really work with people one-on-one to coach them through and hopefully get them connected. Because I think the unfortunate thing is we are going to be in, social distancing for a very long while. It'll be a long while before we'll be able to get back to group presentations. So we're going to put every effort forward to really coaching each community member to get them to be able to access the services as much as possible. And as an alternative, we can always do one-on-one telephone calls.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, comment. This is John Danner.
Yes.
Hi, Kimiko.
Hi.
Very well done. I see how it's done now.
Great.
And yeah, and it's interesting to figure out how many people really have good questions out there that it's very hard to answer these questions. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
Because everything is so individual, and it's not a lecture about. It's just kind of I guess the chapter headings and some fill-in. So it's really very well done for me. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very complicated disease, so, and
Yeah.
things are always changing. So we do the best that we can. And then, of course, John Danner is also a representative from USC, so we work with you closely. Luckily, we have you. If people have more specific questions, we can refer them to UCLA or USC Alzheimer's Research Centers. And we will always do that and provide that more detailed answers. Also, we have our care counseling team, the social workers. I mean, Adriana and I are education staff, so we're not we're not case managers, so we can't answer all of those questions. But we do have a team of social workers at our office that we can connect anybody to for further questions or more individual care management issues. All right, any other questions or comments? See the chat.
Hi, this is Denise.
Yes.
Thank you all for having this webinar. I think, well, this is good for educational basis, like knowing a little bit more about the differences. So I appreciate that. But, and I guess, I think with Jim's been helpful, and I've been on one of the care support calls, and I can't wait till we can get back in person. I know it might be a while out, but because my dad is really struggling with understanding this whole dementia. My mom was just recently diagnosed, so this is all new for us, and he just is having a hard time adjusting. So I'm guessing we just need to go more, have to have him focus more on trying to get on a call with other caregivers to ask his questions, because I'm not him, and I know I see his struggle, but he's just not available because now he quit his job, so now he's with my mom all the time, so he really doesn't get out to talk to more people.
Right.
So
yeah, and with this social distancing, I mean, it's really tough. So we are committed to trying to make these remote options available to everyone. And like I say, if your father wants to get on or connect with some group, definitely call our helpline, and we can try to figure out a way to connect him with a group that makes sense, and then help with any technology issues. Yeah, we're definitely, that'll be our mission for the months going forward, is really making these options available for people to feel connected and to talk to somebody. It's really important that they are able to talk to somebody.
all right, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, we've come up to time. If anybody has any questions, you're free to email us or call us. Like we emphasize, our offices are open. We're fully staffed. We're available remotely. We're available by telephone call. You can call our helpline. And we have support groups available. We're going to start our caregiver workshops as well remotely. So if you want to request anything, just let us know, and we'll be happy to try to accommodate it and make it work and help with any technical issues as well. All right. Well, thank you, Adriana. And we're having these weekly presentations every Wednesday at 10 a.m. So just check our calendar for the topic. And right now we're having them through the end of May. We'll probably continue them through the summer, at least every Wednesday at 10 a.m. And then next month we'll have a few at 1 p.m. in Spanish.
Yes.
So we're looking forward to
Yes,
being
so
able to start offering them in different languages as well.
Yes, so if you know anyone who are Spanish speakers, please let them know that starting in May, Wednesdays at 1 p.m. will be Spanish classes that I will be giving. So thank you.
Okay. Well, we want to respect everybody's time. We'll say goodbye. If anybody, we'll be hanging out for a little bit. If anybody wants to ask any more questions, we'll be here. But thank you for attending, and hopefully we'll see you at the next one as